The moment humanity chose silence, the galaxy finally started listening. Not because humans shouted, not because they threatened war, but because, for the first time in 20 years, they stood up and walked away. And nobody in the Galactic Council realized what that meant until it was far too late. The council chamber of Nexus Station was built to intimidate, a floating ring of alien civilizations orbiting a miniature artificial star, its light casting shifting colors across representatives from 7 dominant species. Every seat symbolized power earned over millennia. Every seat except humanity's. Humans didn't have a throne. They had chairs, temporary ones. A reminder, for 5 years, Ambassador William Harris had attended these sessions. 5 years of polite smiles. 5 years of delays disguised as diplomacy. Every proposal from Earth reviewed, postponed, studied, and quietly buried. Equality was always almost approved. Always next cycle. Always later. Today felt different. The room buzzed with layered conversations, clicking mandibles, harmonic vibrations, chemical scent exchanges humans couldn't even perceive. Yet beneath the noise was something colder. Expectation. Harris rose slowly. The chamber dimmed, automatically, interpreting movement as a request to speak. Hundreds of alien eyes turned toward him. Some curious, most amused. Humans rarely interrupted protocol, which was exactly why the silence spread so quickly. Harris didn't activate the translator podium. He didn't request permission. He simply spoke. "We're done asking." The universal translator carried his words across the chamber, flattening emotion, but it couldn't hide the exhaustion in his voice. A ripple passed through the council seats. Speaker Zerkith, the 4-armed reptilian overseer, leaned forward with visible irritation. His species valued hierarchy above all else. "Ambassador Harris," Zerkith said smoothly, "the council has not granted speaking priority." Harris smiled faintly. "That's the point." A murmur swept the delegates. Behind Harris, the other human representatives stood at the same time. No signal, no discussion, just synchronized movement, as if rehearsed, which they had been for months. Susan Miller, humanity's youngest ambassador, placed a small metallic case onto the table. It clicked open, projecting a holographic archive into the center of the chamber. Thousands of documents rotated slowly. Trade denials, military restrictions, colonial oversight mandates, 20 years of promises never fulfilled. Gas-based delegates flickered uneasy shades of orange. The insectoid Arcturon representative tilted its head, antennae twitching. "This display is unnecessary dramatics." Harris ignored him. "For 2 decades, he said calmly, humanity defended your borders, opened our supply chains, shared navigation algorithms. We were told cooperation would earn trust." He paused. "We trusted you." The hologram shifted. A classified file appeared, marked with the Council's highest authorization seal. And suddenly, several alien representatives sat upright. Because that file was not meant for human eyes. The projection expanded, revealing strategic simulations. 3 human mining colonies highlighted in red. Projected occupation timelines. Resource extraction estimates. Population displacement probabilities. The chamber erupted instantly. Zerkith's scales darkened violently. "That document is theoretical modeling," he snapped. Harris picked up the tablet slowly. "Funny," he replied, "because it reads like an invasion plan." The noise intensified, accusations, denials, overlapping translations creating chaos. And for the first time since humanity joined the council, the humans looked completely calm. Susan crossed her arms. "We defended your trade routes against the Permaxian raiders last year," she said evenly, "while you were drafting contingency plans to seize our worlds." The accusation landed like a weapon. Several council members turned toward Zerkith. They hadn't known either. And that was when the atmosphere changed. Not anger, not fear, something worse. Doubt. Harris closed the tablet. His next words would change the balance of the galaxy forever. And everyone in the chamber could feel it coming. He took a breath, effective immediately. The artificial star at the chamber's center flared brighter, as if the station itself sensed history unfolding. Humanity withdraws from all Galactic Council negotiations. The chamber froze. For half a second, nobody reacted, because no species had ever done that before. Then the shouting began. But Harris wasn't listening anymore. He and the human delegation began calmly packing their belongings. And that's when the Arcturon delegate made a mistake. "You cannot leave," the insectoid clicked sharply. "Your colonies depend on Council protection. The galaxy is dangerous." Harris stopped at the exit, turned back, and smiled in a way that made several alien species instinctively uneasy. "You still think," he said quietly, "we needed protection?" The chamber lights suddenly flickered. Not a malfunction. An incoming transmission override. Priority level, human command. And what appeared next made the entire council realize they might have misunderstood humanity completely. The transmission didn't ask permission. It seized the chamber. Every holographic system shut down simultaneously. Council security protocols tried to block the signal, failed, and then tried again and failed harder. For the first time in recorded Galactic Council history, their technology had been overridden inside their own chamber. A single thought spread silently among the delegates. Humans shouldn't be capable of this. The artificial star dimmed as a massive hologram replaced it. Not a fleet, not a weapon. Earth, blue, alive, rotating slowly in perfect clarity. Gas being shifted into alarm red hues. The reptilian speaker Zerkith slammed one clawed hand against his console. "Terminate this transmission immediately." The system responded with a calm, synthetic voice. "Command authority acknowledged. Override denied." The voice was human, but not entirely. Harris didn't look surprised. He folded his hands behind his back, as if watching a long-awaited reveal. "This," he said softly, "is why we're leaving." The projection zoomed outward from Earth, past Luna, past Mars, beyond the outer colonies the Council believed they understood. Then it kept going, and going. New markers appeared, dozens, then hundreds. Unregistered human installations lit up across nearby star systems like sudden constellations. Whispers turned into panicked translation chatter. These systems were unclaimed. One delegate began. They were surveyed as non-viable, another protested. Susan Miller shook her head slightly. "You surveyed them," she corrected. "We adapted to them." The hologram shifted again. Asteroid habitats rotating inside radiation belts. Cities embedded within gas giants' upper atmospheres. Massive solar collectors orbiting unstable stars. Places no council species considered livable. Places humans had quietly turned into homes. The Arcturon representatives' antennae curled inward, a biological sign of distress. "How long?" It clicked. Harris answered without hesitation. 17 years. The chamber fell silent again. 17 years of hidden expansion. 17 years, while humanity politely requested approval. Zerkith's voice lowered dangerously. "You violated Council exploration agreements." Harris finally laughed, a tired, genuine sound. "We signed those agreements believing we were partners." A new layer appeared on the hologram. Fleet signatures. Hundreds of human vessels emerged from stealth markers. Not warships in traditional design. Their shapes were unfamiliar. Modular, adaptable, engineered for endurance rather than intimidation. Council databases struggled to classify them. They couldn't, because these ships weren't built using shared galactic standards. They were entirely human designs. The gray, tentacled delegate Quira waved dismissively, though her voice trembled. "Numbers mean little. Your species lacks strategic experience." Right on cue, the hologram displayed combat records. Promaxian Raider engagements. Council archives labeled humanity's contribution as minor assistance. The human version showed something different. Unedited battle telemetry. Human ships holding defensive lines long after Council fleets retreated. Human casualties listed in silent columns. Thousands. The chamber grew unbearably quiet. "You told..." The galaxy, we were barely useful, Susan said, her voice steady but sharp. We didn't correct you. Why? Whispered a crystalline delegate. Harris looked directly at them. Because we were studying you. That sentence landed harder than any threat. The projection shifted one last time. Supply routes, trade dependencies, energy grids. Nearly 30% of Council logistics networks glowed blue, quietly maintained by human infrastructure contracts signed over decades. The realization spread slowly, then all at once. Humanity hadn't been begging for acceptance. They had been integrating themselves into the galaxy's foundation. Zerkith rose to his full height, forearms trembling. You're attempting coercion. Harris shook his head. No, he gestured toward the exit doors, now open behind the human delegation. We're removing ourselves. The words felt heavier than war, because suddenly every delegate understood the implication. If humans left, trade slowed, defense lines weakened, frontier systems became vulnerable, and worst of all, the Council would lose access to technologies they didn't even realize depended on human engineers. The insectoid, Arcturon, spoke again, quieter this time. You are making a catastrophic mistake. Harris paused at the threshold. No, he said gently, you already made it. The hologram flickered. A final message appeared across the chamber in every known language. Humanity initiating independent alliance protocols. Then the transmission ended. Lights returned. Silence followed. And for the first time, Galactic Council felt small. But the worst realization hadn't arrived yet, because far beyond Nexus Station, something ancient had detected humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Order. Something that had been waiting for unity to break. And it was already moving. The galaxy noticed the silence before it noticed the danger. Human trade vessels stopped transmitting through Council channels. Defense beacons once maintained by joint fleets quietly switched to independent encryption. Entire communication corridors went dark, not destroyed, simply unavailable. At first, the Galactic Council called it a diplomatic tantrum. By the third day, they called emergency sessions. By the seventh, they stopped pretending everything was under control, because things began disappearing. It started at the edge of Arcturon space. A mining convoy failed to report arrival. No distress signal. No debris. Just absence. Long-range sensors recorded only a brief gravitational distortion, like space itself had blinked. Council analysts blamed pirates, until 3 patrol fleets vanished the same way. Inside Nexus Station, panic hid behind procedure. Speaker Zerkith addressed the emergency assembly, his scales dull with stress. These incidents are unrelated to humanity's withdrawal. But even as he spoke, warning icons flashed across the chamber displays. Another system offline. Another colony silent. The crystalline delegates, voice fractured into static tones. Energy signatures do not match known weaponry. Quira's tentacles tightened uneasily. Then identify it. No one could, because every scan returned the same impossible reading. Unknown origin. Unknown technology. Unknown intent. And worst of all, no human systems were affected. That detail spread quietly at first. Analysts whispered it privately, afraid to say it aloud. Every disappearance occurred along Council-controlled routes. Every attack avoided human territory entirely. Coincidence became suspicion. A junior strategist finally voiced what others feared. Did humanity know? The chamber erupted into arguments. They staged this, one delegate accused. Impossible, another countered. Humans lack this level of power. But deep down, doubt gnawed at them all. Because humans had left too calmly, too prepared, too certain. 3 weeks after humanity's withdrawal, the Council lost its first major world. Velmora Prime. Population 8 billion. The live evacuation feed cut mid-transmission as a shadow passed over the planet. Sensors recorded space folding inward, like reality collapsing gently around the world. No explosion, no invasion fleet, just erasure. The recording replayed endlessly in the Council chamber. Gas delegates flickered sickly violet. Even warrior species sat motionless. "This is extinction level," whispered the Arcturon representative. Zerkith turned toward the human seats. Empty chairs stared back at him. For 20 years, those seats had symbolized weakness. Now they felt like missing armor. A new transmission arrived. Not human, not council. A signal older than any recorded language translated itself directly into neural receivers. Fragmented civilizations are inefficient. Several delegates collapsed instantly under the psychic pressure. Consolidation will begin. The signal ended. No coordinates, no demands, just certainty. Panic finally broke the illusion of superiority. Emergency fleets mobilized, but coordination faltered. Species argued over command authority. Supply chains lagged without human logistics optimization. Defense grids malfunctioned without human-maintained software patches no one fully understood. Within days, another 2 systems vanished. And then realization struck like cold gravity. Human borders remained untouched. Zerkith slammed his claws into the council table. "Contact Earth." Silence. Communication officers hesitated. They are not responding to council priority channels. Then open civilian frequencies. Blocked. Every attempt returned the same automated reply. Galactic Council credentials revoked. The irony burned. For decades, humanity had waited outside the circle of power. Now, the Council stood outside humanity's door. Quira spoke quietly, her earlier arrogance gone. "We misjudged them." The Arcturon clicked slowly. "We assumed dependence." Zerkith's voice dropped to a whisper. "What if they left because they knew this was coming?" The chamber froze at the thought. Because if humans had predicted this threat, then humanity hadn't withdrawn in anger. They had evacuated. A final alert flashed across the chamber. Long-range sensors detected something approaching Nexus Station itself. Not ships, not energy signatures, a region of space where physics simply stopped behaving correctly. Stars bending inward, light slowing, reality thinning. For the first time in its history, the Galactic Council prepared to abandon its capital. And every delegate understood one terrifying truth. The only species that might know how to fight this enemy was the one they had driven away. The Galactic Council had ruled the known galaxy for 12,000 years, and in less than a month, it was preparing to run. Evacuation sirens echoed through Nexus Station, a sound never meant to exist. Delegates rushed through gravity corridors while automated systems struggled to coordinate millions of simultaneous departures. Order collapsed into survival. For the first time, species that once argued over trade tariffs fought for docking priority. Outside the panoramic shields, space itself twisted. Stars stretched into thin lines. Light bent unnaturally toward an expanding region of darkness, not black, but empty, as if reality had been erased and forgotten how to return. Sensor officers stared in horror. It's accelerating. The anomaly wasn't traveling through space. Space was collapsing toward it. Inside the command chamber, Speaker Zerkith watched tactical projections fail one after another. Fleet formations dissolved as navigation systems lost reference points. "Weapons," he demanded. "Targeting solutions impossible," an officer replied. "There is nothing to lock onto." The Council's greatest armada fired anyway. Beams of plasma, gravitational lances, antimatter torpedoes. All vanished into the distortion without impact. No explosion, no resistance, just absorption. The fleets retreated immediately. Fear spread faster than the anomaly itself. Quira's voice trembled. "We cannot fight an enemy that ignores physics." A younger delegate whispered what everyone thought. Humans fought the Permaxians using unconventional strategies. The room went still, because humans had always approached problems differently. Not stronger, not older, just unpredictable. Zerkith hesitated, only a moment before giving the order he once considered unthinkable. "Open a diplomatic channel to humanity. All frequencies, all languages." Static answered. Then silence. Minutes passed. Outside, the distortion swallowed the outer defense ring of Nexus Station. Entire platforms vanished without debris, leaving smooth gaps where matter had existed seconds earlier. Evacuation countdown, 18 minutes. Panic rose again. Then, a signal appeared. Human encryption. Every screen in the chamber shifted to a single symbol, a blue circle crossed by a white line. Earth command. Audio activated. A calm human voice filled the room. This is Admiral Lena Reyes of the United Human Systems. You are broadcasting on restricted channels. Relief flooded the chamber, so suddenly several delegates nearly collapsed. Zerkith stepped forward urgently. Admiral Reyes, the Council requests immediate assistance. Unknown entities are attacking. We know, she interrupted gently. Those two words froze the room. You know? Quira asked. Yes, Reyes said. We detected their movement 22 years ago. Shock rippled outward. 22 years. Before humanity even joined full negotiations. The Arcturon representative clicked sharply. Then why did you not warn us? A pause followed. Not hostile. Not emotional. Just heavy. We tried, Reyes replied. Repeatedly. Our proposals for joint deep space monitoring were denied. Our anomaly research funding requests were dismissed as speculative. Several delegates avoided eye contact. Records confirmed it. Humans had warned them. The Council simply hadn't listened. The station shook violently as another section disappeared into nothingness. Evacuation countdown, 11 minutes. Zerkith swallowed pride. Can humanity stop this? Another pause. Longer this time. Finally, Reyes answered. We can survive it. The wording chilled the chamber. That is not the same thing, Zerkith said carefully. No, Reyes agreed. It isn't. Susan Miller suddenly appeared beside Reyes on the transmission feed, now wearing a military uniform instead of diplomatic attire. The entity you're encountering is what we call a convergence intelligence, she explained. It eliminates fragmented civilizations. To it, divided species are inefficient systems. Gas delegates flickered in terror. It's harvesting us, someone whispered. Not harvesting, Miller corrected. Simplifying. Outside, half the stars visible from Nexus Station blinked out simultaneously. Evacuation countdown, 7 minutes. Zerkith's voice cracked slightly. What must we do? For the first time, Admiral Reyes leaned closer to the camera. You must decide, she said, whether you're ready to become something the Council was never willing to accept. The chamber waited. Every species listening. Every ego suddenly irrelevant. Reyes continued. Because humanity didn't withdraw to abandon the galaxy. Her eyes hardened. We withdrew to build an alliance strong enough to survive what's coming. And then she said the words that changed everything. But joining us means equality. No hierarchies. No superior species. Silence filled the chamber. Outside, reality continued collapsing toward them. The Council now faced a choice it had avoided for centuries. Keep its power or live. Power had always defined the Galactic Council. Now survival demanded something far harder. Humility. The chamber stood silent after Admiral Reyes' ultimatum. Representatives who once commanded star systems hesitated like uncertain recruits. Outside, Nexus Station lost another sector. A curved slice of the megastructure vanished soundlessly, exposing fleeing ships to open vacuum. Evacuation countdown, 5 minutes. Zerkith stared at the human transmission, for hands gripping the console. For 12 millennia, he said slowly, the Council maintained order through structure. Through leadership. Susan Miller's expression softened, but she didn't yield. And that structure made cooperation conditional, she replied. You ask species to earn equality instead of starting with it. No one argued, because everyone remembered the empty human chairs. Quira spoke next, her voice stripped of arrogance. If we accept, what happens to the Council? Reyes answered immediately. It ends. The word echoed like a funeral bell. Not reformed, not expanded, ended. In its place, humanity offered something unknown, an alliance without ranks. The Arcturon delegate shifted uneasily. And command authority during crisis? Shared, Reyes said. Rotational leadership, transparent decision networks. Every species contributes capability, not status. Several delegates recoiled instinctively. The idea felt dangerous, chaotic. Equal voices meant equal responsibility, and equal blame. Another violent tremor shook the station. Warning alarms overlapped into a continuous scream. Evacuation countdown, 3 minutes. A tactical officer interrupted. The anomaly has changed trajectory. It is targeting evacuation vectors. The chamber erupted again. Ships attempting escape began disappearing mid-jump, swallowed before hyperspace transitions completed. Panic threatened to overwhelm reason. Zerketh turned back to the screen, pride visibly collapsing under reality. If we agree, can you protect our people? Reyes didn't answer immediately. Instead, she transmitted new data. A massive formation appeared beyond Nexus Station, previously invisible to Council sensors. Human fleets, thousands of vessels emerging from stealth positions. But these were unlike earlier ships. Gigantic lattice structures surrounded them, generating vast geometric fields that bent incoming distortion away from nearby space. Reality stabilized wherever the fleets moved. Gas delegates flashed brilliant white in shock. You were here the entire time? Quira asked. We arrived 3 hours ago, Reyes replied calmly. We were waiting for your decision. The implication hit hard. Humanity had not abandoned them. Humanity had waited until the Council chose cooperation willingly. Not desperation forced by conquest, but acceptance. Another section of the station vanished. Evacuation countdown, 90 seconds. Zerketh looked around the chamber. Ancient rivals, former allies, species that had competed for influence for centuries. Now, all equally fragile. Slowly, the reptilian speaker lowered himself, a gesture his species reserved only for surrender or deep respect. The Galactic Council, he began, voice heavy, accepts humanity's terms. One by one, delegates followed. Tentacles lowered, wings folded, bioluminescent bodies dimmed in agreement. A symbolic act echoed across cultures, submission not to humans, but to unity. Reyes nodded once. Then welcome, she said, to the United Systems Alliance. Instantly, human fleets activated. A massive field expanded outward from their formation, enveloping Nexus Station. The advancing distortion struck the barrier, and for the first time, stopped, not destroyed, held. Reality stabilized like water freezing midwave. Cheers, sobs, and stunned silence filled evacuation channels across the station. But Reyes' expression remained serious. This shield will not last forever, she warned. The Convergence intelligence is adapting. Susan Miller stepped forward again. This was only the first test, she said quietly. It attacked because the galaxy was divided. Zerketh frowned. And now, Miller met his gaze. Now it will come at us as one civilization. Outside the shield, the anomaly pulsed, learning, evolving, preparing. And deep within the distortion, something massive shifted direction. Not retreating, focusing on humanity. Because the entity had finally identified the greatest variable in the galaxy. The species that refused to fit its definition of efficiency. Humans. And the next attack wouldn't target colonies. It would target the Alliance itself. The shield held. But everyone could feel it struggling. From the observation decks of Nexus Station, reality looked fractured beyond the human barrier. Space rippled like liquid glass. Waves of distortion pressing against the luminous geometric lattice projected by the human fleet. Each impact sent tremors through the station. Not physical tremors. Conceptual ones. Time stuttered. Lights flickered seconds before switches were touched. Voices echoed before words were spoken. The Convergence intelligence wasn't attacking with weapons. It was rewriting the rules existence followed. Inside the command chamber, newly formed Alliance representatives stood side by side. Former rivals, now sharing tactical displays. Human officers moved seamlessly among alien crews, distributing data openly. No restricted access. No hierarchy. Just urgency. Admiral Reyes addressed them all. The entity has identified us as a unified system, she said. That means Phase 2 begins now. Zirkith tilted his head. Phase 2. Susan Miller answered, activating a new projection. It showed humanity's hidden projects, decades in development. Massive relay structures positioned across dozens of star systems. Quantum synchronization arrays. Deep space observatories placed far beyond normal exploration limits. The Arcturon delegate clicked in disbelief. You built an interstellar defense network alone? Not alone, Miller corrected gently. We built it hoping one day we wouldn't be. The projection zoomed outward. Lines connected every allied species territory. Energy flows recalculated in real time. What you see, Reyes explained, is not a weapon. It's a civilization-scale signal. Confusion spread across the chamber. Quira asked, "You intend to communicate with it?" Reyes nodded. The idea sounded absurd. The convergence intelligence erased planets. It did not negotiate. But humanity had reached a different conclusion. We studied its patterns, Reyes continued. It attacks fragmented societies, but ignores unified systems. To it, cooperation equals stability. Zirkith frowned. Then why attack us now? Because unity was declared, Miller said, but not yet proven. The realization settled heavily. The alliance existed, but only in agreement, not action. Humanity planned to change that. The network will link our civilizations cognitively, Reyes said. Shared data, shared decision-making, shared response time. For a brief period, we function as one distributed intelligence. Gas delegates flared in alarm. You propose merging consciousness? Not identity, Reyes clarified quickly. Coordination. Think of it as synchronized awareness. Risk calculations flooded every species' minds. Cultural contamination. Loss of autonomy. Unknown psychological effects. Outside, the distortion surged again, pressing harder against the shield. Sections flickered dangerously. Warning alarms intensified. Estimated shield failure, 12 minutes. Zirkith looked around the chamber. Before, he would have demanded control. Now, he simply asked, what happens if we refuse? Reyes answered honestly. Then the shield falls, and we scatter as separate species. No dramatics, just math. Quira slowly extended a tentacle toward the console. If unity is the condition for survival, then we must truly become united. One by one, delegates authorized connection protocols. Alliance networks activated. Across thousands of ships and billions of beings, data streams linked together. At first, nothing happened. Then, everyone felt it. Not voices, not thoughts. Awareness. A faint sense of countless minds working toward the same goal. Navigation updates arrived instantly. Tactical solutions emerged collaboratively. Fear lessened, not erased, but shared. For the first time, the Alliance acted faster than panic. The convergence intelligence reacted immediately. The distortion outside paused. Space stabilized slightly, as if observing, analyzing. A signal emerged from the anomaly again, pressing into every connected mind simultaneously. Integration detected. The chamber held its breath. Evaluation in progress. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then the entity changed. The distortion condensed, forming a vast geometric structure larger than moons. An avatar shaped from folded spacetime itself. It was no longer erasing. It was testing. Reyes whispered, almost to herself, "It's communicating." But suddenly the Alliance network surged with overwhelming pressure. Several delegates cried out as alien cognition collided unpredictably. Systems overloaded. Unity was working, but it might tear them apart before the entity even decided their fate. And the convergence intelligence delivered its final declaration. Prove stability or be simplified. The test had begun. Time stretched thin. The convergence intelligence loomed, a living paradox of space and thought. Its geometric avatar pulsed with unreadable logic, testing every ship every colony, every consciousness linked through the Human Alliance network. Inside the Nexus chamber, Zerkatha's four arms gripped the railing as if he could anchor reality itself. Quira's tentacles trembled. Even the crystalline delegate's normally calm form vibrated with tension. Admiral Reyes remained composed, standing at the center of the human command hub feed. Her voice was steady, calm, but carried the weight of certainty. "Remember," she said, "it doesn't understand our individuality. It only sees cohesion. Your species can survive if you work together, truly together." The projection system shifted, overlaying live feeds of every fleet, station, and planetary system. The Alliance responded as one organism. Fleets rotated to optimize defense fields. Habitats recalibrated shields in synchrony. Energy grids flowed seamlessly across species. Every action, every calculation unified. The convergence intelligence pulsed again. This time, it wasn't destructive, it was analytical. Patterns emerged across its avatar, fractal algorithms assessing cohesion and adaptability. And then, the unexpected happened. The vast distortion began to shrink. Not retreat, shrink. Almost like the entity had never intended destruction, only evaluation. It tested the Alliance against its rules and found a variable it hadn't predicted: humans and their allies acting as one. Inside Nexus Station, the tension eased just slightly. Gas beings flickered soft whites and blues. Even Zerkatha's scales brightened faintly, a sign of cautious hope in his species. Susan Miller activated another feed. "Phase 3, she said quietly. "It's observing the efficiency of decision-making across independent species. We're not just surviving, we're demonstrating adaptability." Every alien delegate realized what that meant. The humans hadn't merely withdrawn from the Council, they had orchestrated survival. They had engineered a galaxy-wide trial, forcing the Council to witness unity in action. The convergence intelligence pulsed one last time. Space warped around it, bending light into impossible angles, but then it receded. Slowly, purposefully. Outside the shield, stars returned to their usual glow. Fleet stabilized. Nexus Station systems recalibrated automatically. The Council stared in stunned silence. Harris's chair was empty. Zerkath finally spoke. His voice was low, respectful, and something the chamber had never heard before. "Humanity has shown us what we failed to see for centuries." Reyes appeared on the central display once more. Her expression was resolute. "This galaxy can survive," she said, "but only if we act as one civilization. Not one species ruling the rest, but all species working as equals. That is the choice you face now." No one argued. No one questioned. The lesson had been taught. The price had been demonstrated. And for the first time, every species in the chamber understood it. Humans were not merely participants in the galaxy, they were its catalyst. The convergence intelligence had not been defeated. It had been convinced through cohesion, foresight, and patience that unity could exist. The Galactic Council would never be the same again. Humanity had walked away from diplomacy, and in doing so had rewritten the rules of survival, power, and respect across the stars. The galaxy exhaled, and somewhere far beyond, humanity smiled quietly.